So if you think about it, all the different security, EPP, VPN, EDR, XDR, DLP, AV, if you want to still throw that in, there is a ton of overlapping software solutions that are put at the endpoint. That takes a lot of your budget and it takes a lot of the resources on the endpoint to actually run that.
Welcome to the Risk Never Sleeps podcast, in which we learn about the people that are on the front lines delivering and protecting patient care. I'm Ed Gaudet, the host of our program, and today I am so excited. I'm going to try to maintain my composure here, but I am pleased to be joined by a good friend of mine. We've known each other forever, James Millington from IGEL. He's the VP of Product Marketing. Did I get that right, James?
Yeah, that's good. Product marketing and industry solutions.
And industry solutions. Okay, cool. James, welcome to the program. We're going to have a little fun. So if you're a listener, please stay on and listen to this whole podcast, because we're gonna have a little fun at the end here. Unbeknownst to James, I'm going to surprise him a little bit. But right. So James, let's start off with, obviously, tell our listeners about yourself, your role, and your current organization.
Sure. So James Millington, as you heard, Vice President, Product Marketing and Industry Solutions at IGEL. IGEL is an organization that has been around for about 20 years, previously known as a thin client vendor. So very closely associated with Citrix and the way that a lot of the EHRs are delivered. About 2 years ago, we stopped doing hardware, and now we solely focus on the secure endpoint operating system. We partner with HP, LG, and Lenovo for the hardware piece. We focus on delivering this secure operating system. We are a leader in healthcare. A large proportion of our revenue is derived from healthcare and delivering the right security solution for the endpoint, ensuring that care providers can always get to the information that they need.
Awesome. And we're going global with this episode. So where are you from, and where's your organization from?
Yeah, so I am originally and am now in the United Kingdom. I spent 16 years in Boston, and doing a lot of work with healthcare organizations in the United States and around the world, thanks to a couple of the roles that I have held. And IGEL is actually a German company. It has a large presence in US healthcare, but was founded in Germany, and IGEL, or Eagle as it's pronounced in Germany, actually means hedgehog.
Wow. Okay. Did not know that. We're already starting off with fun facts. And wait, there's more. All right. So, how did you get into healthcare?
Good question. So I started working for Citrix in 2000. And I was product management for a lot of the management products that were part of the Citrix infrastructure. As part of that, I started to do work with Epic on some of the load testing and load balancing. So Citrix and Epic, of course, have always been arm in arm in the delivery of the EHR, similarly with Cerner. But that was kind of my introduction into healthcare. And then with the type of customers and presence in healthcare that Citrix had, that took me to a company you might have heard of called Imprivata, where I spent nearly 4 years there. So that was deeply in with the workflows of the care providers and how they access the patient information. Then I went on to VMware and ran the healthcare solution marketing there. So in and around healthcare for a large portion of my professional life, but always from the vendor side. I will say that, always from the vendor side.
Excellent. And as you look out, over the next couple of years and you think about your business, what are some of the key strategic initiatives you're thinking about?
What gets me excited and angry in the same respect is the security, the endpoint security in healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
The number of attacks that are happening that are successful, that in our view can be prevented, particularly in healthcare. And the reason that I say that is healthcare has been using virtualization technologies for a long time, as we have just discussed.
Right.
Healthcare has been used to not running applications at the endpoint. And I kind of say, if you're not running your Windows applications at the endpoint, but you're running your Windows applications virtualized somewhere, then you really don't need to run Windows at the endpoint because it's costly, it's complex, and it's vulnerable.
Right.
Healthcare is used to saying, and as would have been in the past with IGEL, well, let's put a thin client there because nobody can attack a thin client. You can't, the IGEL OS has never been compromised in a cyber attack. So we go into organizations and they adopt virtualization, but they still run Windows at the endpoint. And there's very few use cases as to why they still need to do that. There's some, don't get me wrong, and being in and around this industry for a long time, it's never all or nothing. It's never one single solution across all use cases. So, but you have to look at the use cases and what you can do. So we know for clinical workstations, having a badge tap solution that signs a care provider into their desktop running in the data center is a phenomenal way of spending time, keeping focus on the patient, securing the endpoint. If somebody comes in and walks off with that endpoint, there's no data on it. You don't have to do a breach investigation to understand, has patient records walked out of the door with that device? No, they didn't, because you can't store information on an IGEL endpoint, therefore no breach. So to your question, I think we can have a huge impact on the security in healthcare. Like all things, yes, there's other attack points, but for the endpoint, we can just tick that off the list. Done. Now let's take that money that we can save and let's go put that to securing other elements of the infrastructure. So, I think security is something that we can have a really big impact on. And yeah, I said it kind of makes me angry because there are really good choices out there that can be made that are evidence-based in terms of IT that could be made now and could really impact the way that care is delivered and keeping the information up and available to the providers.
And what do you think from a provider's perspective? Why not just adopt solutions like IGEL? What do you think holds them back? Why don't they?
For the providers themselves, they don't care. They just want, this stuff just needs to work. And by virtue of what I've just said and being able to avoid attacks and being able to avoid downtime from ransomware, it does just work. From the IT side, I think there's always an element that some organizations, some leaders have always done things a certain way. And that might be they know Windows on the endpoint, and that's just what they do. And I would urge those leaders to take another look. We know in healthcare, within Chime, everybody is talking to each other. Talk to some of your colleagues in the way that they've done things differently. And I do just want to point out, I've said a couple of times, don't run Windows at the endpoint. And I do mean don't run Windows at the endpoint, but absolutely run Windows in the data center. So Citrix have had solutions around this. Omnissa now, as they are now, have got solutions around this. What Microsoft are doing with AVD and Windows 365 is terrific. We love Windows. Just run it securely in the data center.
So that inertia of change is really what's holding them back.
I think so. Yeah, that's what we tend to see.
Yeah, and it's a really good way to think about security from an infrastructure perspective, because oftentimes we sort of look past that and we think about, well, we need all these security protections in place. But if we looked at it from an infrastructure perspective, maybe we wouldn't need to spend as much money on some of those other protections that we have in place.
So you're 100% right, and we have maybe
I should look at IGEL for a job. Maybe I should. I think I'm telling the story pretty good, James.
You're learning. You're getting there. you know it's But to your point, so we have a very thorough TCO calculator, because there's three ways that we can impact the endpoint. There's security, there's the TCO, and there's the sustainability, which is another story which is becoming increasingly important. Security, in research that we did, we found that organizations may be spending up to 40% of their endpoint budget on the software security stack and the IT operations to run that software security stack. So if you think about it, all the different security, EPP, VPN, EDR, XDR, DLP, AV, if you want to still throw that in, there is a ton of overlapping software solutions that are put at the endpoint. That takes a lot of your budget, and it takes a lot of the resources on the endpoint to actually run that. So as much as 40% of your endpoint budget can just go in that. The second thing that creates is complexity. So I am sure every organization out there has had some example of two pieces of software conflicting with each other. And then the big thing that we saw a couple of months ago, if that, was the CrowdStrike outage.
You wouldn't need CrowdStrike on the endpoint if you had IGEL, would you?
Yeah, this is a good interview. You're doing really well.
Thank you.
But to your point, so to this point,
not good for CrowdStrike, but good for IGEL.
And you still may need to run CrowdStrike if you're running Windows in the data center. You still may need to run something like.
I love
like
CrowdStrike.
that.
I'm a user of CrowdStrike. Yeah.
So that's still a point. It's just you don't need it on the endpoint.
Yeah. That's
now. We had our Disrupt user conference in Munich just last week, or depending on when you're listening to this. And we have just created a phenomenal video with Aaron Mirri from
our friend,
who I'm sure everybody that's watching this will know Aaron at Baptist, and he has been on the forefront with his team in deploying Microsoft AVD into a clinical environment, working with IGEL and some other vendors. He told the story, and we will be publishing the video very, very shortly, of the morning that the CrowdStrike event happened. He had about 1,000 devices already deployed with IGEL. He's going through this process now. He's really on the leading edge with Microsoft AVD into a clinical environment. So do go talk to him if you're looking at this. He had 1,000 devices. Not one of those was impacted. And he took the decision, because they're mid-rollout, all of the rest of his endpoint devices, they rolled immediately onto IGEL. With AVD, it was a very quick setting to roll back to a previous snapshot.
Nice.
No downtime. His ER was full all morning, no impact on patients. Saw in the news across the US, across the world, there were impacts to healthcare and other industries, and not being able to see patients, not to IGEL patients.
That's a nice clinical continuity option that you could put in place. Now, just that's for you. That's free. There you go. Free marketing advice for you, James. I want to see clinical continuity all over.
Absolutely.
Marketing now. All right. Well, we got to move on. This has been really good. And I'm sure listeners are excited about IGEL and what you do. And I've seen it in operation. It's incredible technology, and it's come a long way too, as you said, with the advances that Microsoft has made. So definitely, if you're listening and you're running IT infrastructure, take a look at the IGEL products. And this is not an ad, by the way. This is like, you're not paying me to say that.
I'm not. Sorry if I overdid it there a little bit.
No, there we go. All right. So we talked about priorities. Let's talk about you now. You, the person, the man, James Millington. Yeah, that's right. My favorite topic. So we've known each other for so long. You know, when I was thinking about when you were saying the video, I thought you were going to say you were doing the video, because remember when you did Dr. James McDreamy Millington on stage at Improvada? Remember you did did you do like our first video? And then we ended up hiring professional actors.
We did, and they're still doing that demo too.
They are doing that demo. That demo's amazing, by the way.
It appears to work.
Now, when you go into an NHS hospital, do you see Improvada in action?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's great. It's like, and I tell the nurses or the doctors, yeah, I used to work for that company. They're like, oh, can you? And then they start asking me like, oh, I have a problem. Can you like? I'm like, no, just go.
I still look behind the monitors. If you go into, I did have to take my daughter, and my daughter's sitting on the bed waiting, and I'm around the back of the computer and looking what's connecting to. And I'm sure everybody that's listening to this does the same thing. Oh, I wonder what they're running over here.
I did the same thing. I remember I hurt my leg and I went into the orthopedic, and my wife was with me, and she saw my Improvada jacket on or something, and she goes, "Oh, do you work for Improvada?" Or maybe it was a Cortex thing, and she's like, "Oh, do you work for Cortex?" I'm like, "I work for Improvada. It's Cortex is a product." And, "Oh no, we use it. We love it. We love it." And for 20 minutes, we talked all about Cortex, and my wife was like, "Are you going to check his leg out? Like, what's going on here?" But no, Improvada's got an amazing brand.
It has.
So still to this day, that you and I had a stake at
we did have it
in helping build. And all right, so James Millington, outside of healthcare IT, what's your passion? What would you be doing if you weren't doing this?
Oh, probably scuba diving.
Really?
Yeah.
You're a scuba diver? I did not know that.
You've probably forgotten.
Like Belize and no. I've been sober for 3 years, so it's odds are I probably did forget. Scuba diving's a passion. So funnily enough, actually, when I met you is just about when my first daughter was born, and small kids kind of put the kibosh on scuba diving. Yes.
Being able to travel, being able to just those great experiences. The different kind of people that you meet. It's funny, like we did a lot of liverboard scuba diving, and you meet just some fun, great, really nice people from all around the world scuba diving, and you share a passion and and what you can learn about the ocean and sustainability as part of that, and ecology. It's a fascinating area.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that I wish I knew that existed as a profession when I was a kid, and maybe I'd have gone a whole different direction.
Does Lucy dive as well?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Wow. All right. How about your kids? Have you started to bring them into it?
Yeah, so you can certify as PADI certification at the age of 10, and my first daughter is certified. My youngest has just turned 10, and we're hoping to do her certification in the next couple of months.
Awesome.
So it's the master plan that we can get back to scuba diving. It's
very cool.
A long time coming.
Yeah, very spiritual too.
Very peaceful, very in that there's nothing else when you're you're down. There is just nothing else that you can be doing at that point apart from that. So very in the moment, very present, very mindfulness
Yes, mindfulness. Yeah.
is the term.
Okay. You go back in time. What
Oh,
would you tell your 20-year-old self?
good God.
That was like last week for you, right? So you still
Ah,
look like Hugh Grant too, by the way.
yeah, I'm not sure about that. Probably. So I'd probably. Oh God, it's simple, unfortunately. But my daughter's just coming up to her GCSE. Well, she's. I would come back to the UK. She's having
Yeah.
to think about what she's going to take for her GCSEs, and what I've told her is probably what I'd do tell my 20-year-old self, which is just do something you enjoy.
Yes.
Just do something you're
Amen.
passionate about. I mean, it's. I'm afraid it may not be original insights, but it is that classic. Do something that you enjoy, and you'll never work a day, as
As
they
they
say.
say.
Um, I'm I'm lucky in so much as, funnily enough, the IT route took me in a great direction. And what we did actually, I've been really lucky, and I think you probably get this as well. In even though we were in IT, going down the healthcare route in IT actually was incredibly fulfilling because you saw what people were able to achieve with your technology. Not necessarily that I was going in and
Yeah.
achieving
Yeah.
things. Like one of my favorite stories, which makes me well up even when I tell it, was working with, I think it was Children's of Philadelphia, and it was while I was at VMware, and they put in a system with Workspace ONE managing the iPad devices, and the CIO there had to be very thoughtful about how they designed. Couldn't have cables because there was potential of suicide risk in certain patient rooms. But he told this story of through the iPads that he'd been able to put into patient rooms. He had one story of a child that bonded with his estranged father at
Hmm.
2 a.m. in the morning over a basketball game that they put onto the iPad to help distract the kids that were in there, keep them occupied. There was research that being able to keep them occupied and distracted lowered the need for medication, and that was why they did this. And yeah, this child bonding with an estranged parent over this game on this device. So it wasn't anything I did, but it was the CIO taking the solution and feeling that, maybe I played a little part in a really good thing there. And some of the, I'm sure you have stories as well that you got back from customers, but I've found this healthcare IT very, very fulfilling from that aspect.
The journey. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
amazing. No,
the
it's really
constant.
important. I think, that for me, for healthcare in particular, and Imprivata was my first, my first foray into healthcare, my first experience. And I'd done 10 previous companies, right, in all different industries. And, we'd always look at healthcare as a vertical, but they were always 5 years behind everybody in terms of technology. And I typically, I'm in emerging technology all my career. And when high tech and ARA came along in 2009 through the Obama administration, the thesis was there's going to be a forklift upgrade to the infrastructure based on all the funding now that's available because of meaningful use. And so that was the genesis for the market entry strategy for Imprivata. And what I found was that I thought I knew, and I had no clue what healthcare was all about. And I love this because people ask me all the time, how do you, how are you so successful in healthcare? And it's like you have to go all in,
Mm,
and you have to be willing to take everything you've learned previously and throw it out the window because healthcare is so different. It's so different. And you have to serve alongside your healthcare
very
partners,
much.
right? It cannot be transactional. If it's transactional, you'll never succeed in healthcare. And so that shared mission is real. And that's what gets me excited because we're all patients. We all know patients, right? And, if your mother, father, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, friend are hooked up to a machine, life-saving machine, and it gets hit with a ransomware attack or some systemic risk, now it's personal, right? So,
Yeah.
and that was the whole impetus behind obviously this podcast, but Sensinet. And so I love that point you bring up, because it's so true. And it's really for listeners that are looking at getting into healthcare, it's something to really consider, because it's unique. You're not going to find it in any other industry, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Awesome. All right. So we talked about that. I've got to ask you this question. Risk Never Sleeps podcast. You talked about diving, but I know you're a risk taker. What's the riskiest thing you've ever done, James Millington, in your life? Riskiest thing. Don't think too hard.
I was going to say, I feel like I should have prepared for this.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Did you ever jump out of a plane? A risky dive?
Yeah, I mean, leaving Citrix to go to work for Imprivator.
Oh, that. Come on, that wasn't risky.
No, it's the cliche thing for me to say would be the diving would be a shark dive.
Yeah.
But then that part of what you learn in the education is that for the most part, and I suppose there's a life lesson there. If you're educated, then going on a shark dive in the right conditions with the right type of shark in the right kind of place at the right kind of day isn't a risk whatsoever.
Yeah, that's true.
Very, very small. So yeah, that would be the easy answer, but also the most factually incorrect.
Okay. We'll come back to that. Because I may be able to help you. Hardest lesson in your career?
Hardest
lesson in your career?
Not taking, not double checking information.
Oh,
which was it's the classic trust but verify.
I was going to say that. Yeah, exactly.
It is the classic on that. It's a silly example, but it's the one that comes back at me, and it's very much an IT and software piece, and releasing a piece of software that we did, and then going to checking with the downloads team on what the downloads were, and being told we'd had 50,000 downloads of this software in 24 hours. This was, I won't say when it was, but it was a while ago. Exactly. That kicked off oh my God, have we got the technical support to deal with this? Have we got the resources? Have we got turned out the IT guy got his numbers way wrong.
Yeah.
And it caused a massive chain of events, which were the right events for customers, the potential customers that we thought had all downloaded this software and were all installing it. And it wasn't Imprivator, by the way. But yes, just taking that, it caused a massive amount of work for people, and wasn't good.
Unnecessary anxiety.
Yeah,
it's PTSD and everything else that comes along with that.
It really was. It caused a lot of resources to be utilized in a way, and getting a little more into the data, checking if something. It's the classic. If something sounds a little too good to be true, it probably is.
Yes, I say that all the time.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
the time.
So that was my biggest lesson.
All right, we're gonna go to you back to your question around risk, your biggest risk, and I'm going to share my screen here.
Oh no!
Oh, does that look familiar, James? James, does that look familiar?
Does that even look like me?
And that is not Hugh Grant.
Don't say.
I love that's one of my favorite photos of you. Tell listeners what that photo is, James Millington.
Okay. One, Imprivator had a great culture, probably still does. Don't take that. And one of the things that Imprivator had was effectively a house band, which was fun times, and
which we created.
Indeed.
Yep. Yep.
Two of the singers in that band were a certain Mr. Ed Gaudet.
I wouldn't call
And
me a singer, more of a performer. Yes.
well, he did have to pass the audition, to be fair,
Yeah.
about 5 minutes before going on stage. Uh,
That's right.
and yeah, so this was fun time. Yeah, I was the other singer
Sure. That's right.
in the band. It was a great time.
Great
Great
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, here's another photo of you
Okay.
with Kenny. You're probably singing a neighborhood song or something like obscure.
Yeah.
Letters to Cleo, I think, or something.
Yeah, maybe. Fun times.
That was a good time, right? Right. We got more. We got
God,
more.
how many? I know my mind went to, when you said earlier it was going to be a surprise, my mind went to, he has the pictures, but
Oh, I have a lot of pictures. These are the ones I could show. All right, here's another one. Oh, tell the folks what that is.
you may not recognize him, but that is Ed, the grand finale of the sets that we did.
Yes.
Ed got a theme of basically dressing up. So there was the big ending number. Was it All Night Long or
Yeah,
no.
rock. Yeah, it's geez, what the hell's the name of that song? It's a Kiss song.
Yes,
I want to rock and roll all night. Rock and roll all night.
Yes, that's the one. Rock and roll all night.
And party every day, which we did back then.
That was fun. There's probably quite a lot of photos of that.
There's a lot of photos and a lot of recordings too, James, which we won't play, but there are recordings and videos.
Excellent.
Now, this is one of my favorite photos. You have to explain this one.
Oh God, I can guess.
Really? I don't think so. What do you think it is?
Does it involve coconuts?
No, no, it does not. No, James.
Okay,
it does
good.
Not. I've deleted that photo.
It's only positives from there.
It's only that's right. That wouldn't work out for either of us. Okay, Here we go.
Oh, wonderful.
Our good friend Frank Neidham too.
Stories within stories there.
I know.
Yes, that was Frank Neidham and I on tour in Australia with the wonderful Tisa Murdoch. And God, you can date it to the phone. Having dear thoughts and conversations and missing Ed. And that was the picture of Ed is from the
his Talkapalooza.
Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
In a stolen jacket, if I remember.
That was a stolen jacket off of someone's back when I actually could fit into a coat that small. I barely could fit into that one, but that was tight. I remember. And I think that was the night also I partied with Jonathan Bush, I think. Was that the same night? The infamous night?
Either that or the Judy Faulkner.
Oh, I think those were the same. I think those were the same nights. I think those are the same nights. Yeah.
Write in, listeners, if you want more information on the Judy Faulkner episode.
No, I'm not. No, Judy's awesome. No, Judy's awesome. And we talked about science fiction authors for a while. Excellent. Before the dancing.
Of course.
All right. Okay.
Wonderful times.
So let me just stop sharing this. Wonderful times.
This industry has been very, very kind to us.
It has. We've had a lot of fun. We're older now. We can't do half of the things we used to do.
No, we have to
all right. So now I can ask you the next question. So the riskiest thing is probably getting on stage, right? And performing in front of 300 or plus more of your peers. You're on a desert island, 5 records, albums, CDs, whatever you want to call them these days. Oh, God, what would you bring?
I'm terrible at
no greatest hits either. No greatest hits. So
no, oh God, I am just terrible at recall. I've always been a huge Prince fan.
Prince.
Yeah.
I forgot about, yes, that's right.
Yeah, big Prince fan.
Yes. Nice.
So I'd probably go with Sign of the Times by
nice.
Prince. I'll go with that mainly because I get a double album. So
You do.
That's true.
That's a good way to play it. No greatest hits though, but that's
But
good.
for any Prince fans that are listening, going, well, what about Crystal Ball? You get a triple album. That's true, but I'll go with Sign of the Times.
Yeah, you don't want too much Prince on the island. You don't want too much Prince on the island.
Yeah, exactly.
Just enough.
I think you've probably got to put a little bit of Led Zeppelin in there. I've been trying desperately to
just tell me a song and I'll tell you the album.
Oh God. See, but I'm terrible at recall.
Oh, okay.
But I'm going to take Led Zeppelin 3. I think I remember us having the conversation. I listened through and
that's an acoustic heavy.
Yeah.
Very introspective. Gallows Pole's on that. Thank you. Or what else is on there? Immigrant Song is on there too.
I'm terrible at recall. But I was a house music DJ in London in the late 90s and early 2000s. So
Pulp? Am I getting a Pulp?
No, house music.
Okay.
Not Pulp. But there's some again, classic house music tracks that again very evocative of a certain time and memories, and there's a classic song called, which almost nobody listening to, and if you have, then please post in the comments. There's an old song called it's by Asher and it's called JJ Tribute. And it has a Janis Joplin sample.
Will you send that to me, please?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I
love that. Yeah,
which is terrific. So I would have that on there. I mean, that's 3, but 2 of them are albums.
Okay. That's it. Okay. I'm surprised you didn't mention one of my favorites, one of your favorites, I know. And this is, if you're still listening, this is the fun part of our episode right now, James, because you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do a cappella, you and me.
No, we're not.
Yes, Champagne Supernova, dude.
No.
Yes, we're doing it
really
right.
Bad to...
No, we're gonna do it right now. Who cares? You have a beautiful voice.
No, I don't.
I suck, but I'm gonna add harmony on the chorus. Come on. How many Come on, let's do it. Let's do it right now.
Oh God.
Come on, just do it.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. How many special people change? How many lives are living strange? Where were you while we were getting high?
Keep going. Slowly walking down. Keep going. Come on, I'm going to do the chorus. Keep going.
Faster than a cannonball. Where were you while we were getting high?
Someday you will find me
caught beneath the landslide
in a champagne supernova in the sky. Someday you will find me
caught beneath the landslide in a champagne supernova.
A champagne supernova in the sky. Beautiful. Look at that. See, that was easy, right?
To be fair, that could have
dude,
been
you
worse.
Still have a great voice, man.
That's very kind of you.
No, I miss our time together. And for listeners,
guests, we'll do the version of your song.
We've done that. I was gonna say for listeners, James and I for many years would end up after hours at a karaoke bar. And we were known to do a duet for Elton John.
Bar.
What's that?
Any karaoke bar.
Yeah, any. And we found all types of karaoke bars. But Elton John, your song, one of my favorite duets that we would do. But I also like Champagne Supernova. Although James would get pissed when I sang chorus because he'd always look over at me, stop singing.
I mentioned Ed had to audition. In the rehearsals, he'd been really flat. So before we actually went on stage, I made him do it in the car park before we went on.
Oh my God!
He sang it, and then at the end of it, went, "Did you just audition me?"
I think.
Yep.
I do remember that actually. I was always good for a Roadhouse Blues, though. I could always belt that one out. But everything else was terrible. You know, I went back and I found all the videos. John Ellis also sent me a bunch, and I wanted to see, I wanted to see the one where I did Little Help for My Friends, because that was the one that just plagued me and haunted me for years. And I listened to it, and it actually wasn't bad. I think at the time I thought it was a complete disaster, but
the recordings always sound terrible. I watched something today. We had a house band in Munich, and they were phenomenal. Called Radar, cover band, just fantastic. And I watched a clip of the video today, and it was like, ooh, I know that sounded great on the night.
Yeah,
so the recordings. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
Now, you're not in a band now, I take it?
No.
Do you know that our friend Frank Neidham is?
I know, yeah. He's playing in Jersey, New York.
I know. I'm so jealous.
So great. I'd love to go see that.
Frank, if you're listening, keep going, man. Keep going. It's only rock and roll, but we love it.
Yeah. We love you and miss you, Frank.
We do miss you, yes. All right. So any last comments for individuals coming out of school, trying to break into healthcare or cyber or IT?
I mean, just again, that area of do something that you love. I was listening to something today, which is kind of make yourself unique. Find something that makes you stand out. I finding, and maybe it's just a personal view. I'm seeing a generation that's come through that does not want to stand out, that does wants to look the same, sound the same, be the same, not stand out. And you've got to find something that makes you a little bit unique, that makes you stand out. I mean, you may be getting, there's an element here, probably both myself and Ed is what, we are slight show-offs. We like to put ourselves out there. I love
a little quirky too, little quirky, little quirky, little weird, little eccentric.
Getting on stage is a risk. Actually, I love that.
I did too. I loved it. I gotta admit, I loved it. I loved it. I didn't love all the band drama that we had, but I did.
God, that was horrific.
And if you're in the band and you're listening to this, shame on you. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. How bands
I'm just kidding. No, that's what made it though.
And whoever stay together for.
I know, it's amazing. I know.
It really is, but find that thing that's unique about you, that you love, that can be a quirk, that can be something that is a reason that people are going to employ you and notice you, and embrace your weird. But,
embrace your weird, embrace your dread, embrace your weird. I love it.
Yeah, because
fly your freak flag, right? Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, be authentic. Be authentic. Figure out what that means and be it. Yeah, I love that. Great way to end. I will say though, I did like the drama in the band because I knew that every band had drama, and for me that made it real. Like I'm like at one point I remember. I mean, it was still tense. There were moments that were tense, but I just remember thinking, wow, this means we have a band because there's so much drama now.
Yeah, and I suppose that's another potential lesson of. You can find things that you love with great people, even if what you're doing is not necessarily what that it sets out to be.
Amazing. And it's so funny when a house band, you find people that, in different departments who you wouldn't have had a chance to really get to know and meet. And everyone loves music, you find, and most people or some people will play instruments, and and it's just it's such a good time to do that.
It's funny. So there's two things. I know you've got to the end of two stories. One of the guys that happened to join was brought in as a ringer to that band, subsequently got a job with Improvator, well deserved as well, and is still there.
Still there. Yeah.
Still there. Great guys. You never know how things are going to work out. And again, in that, so a little story in finding things that you love and going a little extra mile. I've just employed a guy into my team, and he was recommended to me, but I went off to try and find information about him. And he has a passion for mountain biking. And he bought this bike, very cool, almost kind of boutique-y bike, but he wrote a review of the bike. He doesn't normally write stuff, but he wrote this review, and it was really in-depth, and it was a really great write-up. The manufacturer of the mountain bike saw it, posted it to their website. I, in turn, wasn't sure. I got good recommendations, but should I employ this guy? Should I not? I found this blog that he'd written, this review that he'd written, and it was great writing. And I knew then that this was something authentic and to him. And I knew it because of just the way that he'd written, the quality of his writing. He'd be great fit into the team. But that was the thing that he wrote for, not in any way as a job interview, but as a passion.
Yeah.
And ended up impacting kind of the reason that I was able to find him, understand what he's about, and offer him a job because I needed somebody that can write.
Tapping into someone's passion is a great reflection of that individual too, and really gives you that depth of what's possible. And I love that point, James. That's a really great point. And to the story about the hire that we did, we had a lead guitarist who was sick, and we needed to practice. And one of the singer's brother-in-laws played in the band and was available, so he came in to stand in for the practice. And he was so amazed. Not that our lead guitarist wasn't good. This guy was like, just off the charts, amazing. And I remember we were talking to him, asking, well, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just between jobs and I'm looking for something. And I'm like, what do you do? And I'm like, oh my God, we're going to find you a job. We're going to find you a job. You need to stay in the band. And we did.
What are you doing? Right. Test engineer.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he started off on the help desk. I think he's managing teams now, I think.
Yeah.
He's doing great. He's a great guy. Amazing guy. Amazing voice. Amazing guitar player too.
Yeah.
Good times. James, appreciate your time. Good to see you, my friend.
Likewise.
Yeah. And we have to stay in touch. It's been a while. I'll see you at Vive and Hymns and Health. Are you going to Health?
Not Health, but Vive and Hymns.
Okay. All right. I'll see you there.
We'll be there.
All right. This is Ed Gaudet from the Risk Never Sleeps podcast. If you're on the front lines protecting patient safety and delivering patient care, remember to stay vigilant because risk never sleeps.